The One Piece live action anime show has been out for some time now. Now, for the most part, it's been getting some pretty good reviews. Casting, the writing, the production, the acting, the loyalty to the source material. Pretty much everything that would make for an A1 type of live action anime show or movie. The Otaku Street's been talking since August 31st of 2023, saying how it's one of the best live action anime shows to ever hit the screen, that things can only go up from here, and most importantly, that the One Piece live action series has finally broken the curse of live action anime. Now, personally, I've yet to see the show since I'm still catching up on a list of anime and manga right now, so I can't say for myself if the show was good or bad. But what I will say is that I highly disagree with the statement that this show was the one that broke the curse. Why is that? Simply because there have been plenty of live action anime movies and TV shows for years, and contrary to popular belief, not all of them have been terrible. I mean, you could even say that some of them were absolutely mind-blown with how well they were put together and how they defied the expectations, having some people think that it'd be another silly attempt at making live-action anime-based media. Now, I'm only going to talk about the ones that I've seen personally, rather than go off of a list put together by somebody else. So if I don't mention it, it's because either I haven't seen it or maybe I didn't think it was that good if I did see it. And in no way is the numbering on this list meant to imply that I think one is better than the other. Now, if that's out the way, let's get to it. Leading the charge at number 1, we got the movie Crow Zero. Made in 2007 and directed by Takashi Miike, one of my top 10 favorite directors. Now, you know how school is usually about people going there to learn stuff, right? But unfortunately, there's some people who come to school to do bad shit and get into fights. Well, in the Crow Zero universe, at this school especially, motherfuckers go to school to throw hands. See, this school has a ranking system based on one's strength and fighting prowess. If you can whoop ass in this school, you get respect. But if you can whoop the strongest people in that school, you become the leader of the whole joint. And that whole school basically becomes your gang. And if you can't beat the strongest, then you just become another part of the gang. But if you manage to impress the strongest, they might make you into a lieutenant. And of course, lieutenants have the power to call some shots here and there. So you may not be the strongest at the school, but you're definitely one of the strongest. But at the end of the day, you got the reputation of being one of the baddest MFs in the whole school. Cats like Fall Extra will be right at home in a school like this. Now, the story centers around Suzuran High School, which has the reputation of being the most dangerous high school in the entire country, meaning that in all of Japan, this school is as gutter as it gets. By the way, this is an all-boys school, so if you were hoping to see some female delinquent Sukeban type characters brawling it out, you ain't gonna get that here, bro. But there are other movies who do exactly that though. Anyway, Suzuran is filled to the brim with delinquents and gangsters, and there are several gangs that exist within the different classes. Now, the protagonist, Genji, is basically on a mission to beat the strongest person at Suzuran and unify all of the gangs, which up until him has never been done before. The movie was then succeeded by 2 other sequels, being Crow Zero 2 and Crows Explode. Also, fun fact, if you're a fan of the High and Low movies, High and Low and Crow Zero exist within a shared universe. Not gonna lie, learning that did nothing but bolster my interest in this series. And honestly, I need to catch up on the manga and the sequels though. Personally, I give this movie about an 8.9 out of 10. Next on this list at number 2 is Gokusen. The story of Gokusen centers around a woman named Kumiko Yamaguchi, and she's the heiress to a Yakuza clan. But instead of inheriting the family business after her grandfather steps down, instead she wants to become a school teacher and guide the next generation of troubled youths onto the right path and all that other good stuff. The family, being perfectly fine with her decision, decides to encourage her to go and do just that. Now, the toughest part of her job isn't necessarily teaching a bunch of delinquents. I mean, it is part of it though, but the toughest part is keeping the fact that she's from a Yakuza family secret, because if word gets out, she most likely won't be able to keep her job as a teacher. Despite how passionate about her job she may be, the school system is gonna be like, I mean, your family are some straight up Yakuza members, bro. That's just not a good look for the school. I mean, even though the school is already crawling with delinquents, but I guess they gotta maintain some kind of an external image. Now, it's also no secret that Yamaguchi is also nice with the hands. Now, the reason why is that part of her grooming process, not that kind of grooming, part of the process of getting her ready to inherit the family business was to make sure that she was tough enough to handle herself in the highly likely occasion that a situation can go from being just a conversation to shit hitting the fan. Now, if she were to let it become known that she can both squabble on top of having that tomboyish attitude that tends to show itself every now and then, people are going to start putting 2 and 2 together and her cover's going to get blown. So essentially, she just got to play along and pretend like she's all shy and nervous or scared of the delinquents, all while trying to do her best as a teacher. Gokusen is based off the manga of the same name. The manga ran from about 2002 to 2007. The anime debuted in about 2004. And the live action series ran from about 2002 to 2008, with the movie to cap off the whole thing in 2009. Now, I first came across the Gokusen anime back in like, I think the mid 2000s. The mid 2000s for me being the middle school days. See, now back in the day, right, back when cable boxes still had credit cards in them, there used to be this channel called Encore, and there was a sub channel of it known as Encore Wham. And on this channel there was an anime block, and I think there was about maybe 4 or 5 different anime shows that came on from about 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. From what I remember, the animes were Gokusen, Sayuki Reload, Samurai Deeper Kyo, and Desert Punk, I think. But anyway, the point is, I had something to watch after coming home from middle school. Mind you, this was also back when Crunchyroll wasn't a thing just yet. I watched Gokusen pretty much every time that it came on because that joint was funny as hell to me.
Mess with my kids, I'll kick your ass!
Then I found out there was a live action series, and because I wanted to see more of it, I ended up looking for it. But mind you, these were the old days. Back then you had to go to YouTube and watch a bunch of chopped up anime episodes that were in 3 10-minute videos that were in the Japanese dub with Spanish subtitles. So unless you spoke Japanese or Spanish, you pretty much had to guess what the hell everybody was saying. Long story short, I couldn't find a live action show back then, so I left it alone. But then a couple years back, I found the whole series online and binge watched it in like a week. I actually liked all 3 seasons plus the movie, but I personally like season 1 the best because it has the same cast as the anime and manga. But after season 1, Yamaguchi always goes to a different school and takes on a different class of delinquents. Now there's not as much action in this show, or at least not as much as you think there would be when it comes to a show that's full of delinquents and has a character that's as OP as Yamaguchi is. But rest assured that going into the show, you're gonna see some drama, hella comedic moments, and quite a lot of wholesome and insightful lessons that each class of students ends up learning with every episode of each season. And it definitely has some moments that's gonna cause somebody to cut onions around you for some reason. I don't know why, it's weird.
勉強はできないかもしれない。優等生じゃないかもしれない。けど、人間として一番大事なものをちゃんと持ってる。ここにな。だから、自信を持って、正々堂々、胸張って生きてけ。
And lastly, just like its anime counterpart, which deserves to have the whole series animated beyond season 1 by the way, it has a lot of replay value in my opinion. I give this joint about a good 8.5 out of 10. I still gotta read the manga though. At number 3, we got Death Note. Nah, not the Netflix movie. I'm talking about the original joint that was made back in 2006, which was around the same time that the anime came out. Not exactly an unheard thing, but you know. Now, if you've been watching anime for a while, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with the story. Super smart high school student Light Yagami finds a black book that fell outside his class window. Thinks it's fake, tests it out, it works, thinks it's a coincidence, tests it out again. Now he's certain that it's real. First he feels bad, like damn, I just caught 2 bodies. But then he's like, man, fuck them criminals. Then L jumps into the mix and he's like, I'ma catch this motherfucker. Then Light's like,
I'ma kill this motherfucker.
Then the whole cat and mouse game ensues. One of the dopest anime stories ever told ends up unfolding. Now the movie is split into 2 parts, which pretty much covers up the first and second halves of the story. But there are some changes here and there for various reasons. A few differences in how the story plays out for certain characters like Naomi Misora. Certain characters are either gender swapped or flat out replaced by an entirely new character that only exists in the movies. And I would say the ending plays out closer to the manga than the anime did. But nonetheless, it was a pretty damn good adaptation. Another cool addition is that the English dub of the movie has the same voice actors from the anime that reprise their roles.
Hey Light, give me an apple. I just want an apple! As long as I'm being watched, you can't eat apples in my room. What?
I give the movie a nice 8 out of 10. Now there were sequel movies that came out after these 2, but I have yet to see them, so I can't really say. At number 4, we have Guyver 2, or Guyver Dark Hero. Now this movie wasn't made in Japan. In fact, it was actually an American release. So of course the character names are different for the most part. The main character, Sho Fukamachi, is instead named Sean, and he's played by actor David Hayter. Yeah, same dude that does the voice of Solid Snake from Metal Gear Solid. Now the story greatly differs from the anime and the manga, so it's basically its own thing. The story takes place about a year or 2 after Sean first became the Guyver and destroyed the Kronos Corporation. Thinking that all the monsters known as Zoonoids were all gone, now he now resumes using the Guyver to help him be a vigilante dealing with regular bad guys. But turns out, now them Zoonoids, they still lurking. Kronos ain't as dead and gone as old boy thought it was. The action scenes in this movie just scream 90s movie. Not that that's a bad thing. But what I did notice is that the fight scenes were very reminiscent of the Power Rangers. But then when you realize that one of the directors of the movie, Stephen Wang, not only worked on Power Rangers but also worked on Kamen Rider, it all makes sense. Now, if you're a fan of the anime series, don't go in expecting to see an appearance from Guyver 3 or that female Guyver or even that giant version of the bio boosted armor. But there is a character that I'm not sure if something like that has appeared in the manga, since I'm not fully caught up on the story just yet. But there's this joint called the Guyver Zonoid, and believe when I say that the design for this joint is bonkers. I give the movie about a solid 8.5 out of 10. Also, side note, I mentioned Guyver 2 and not the first movie simply because you don't have to see the first movie at all. Nah, seriously. You really don't need to see the first movie. The sequel is superior to the first movie in every sense of the word. Spend that hour and some change watching a different movie, like Parasyte, coming in at number 5. Not to be confused with the Korean Bong Joon-ho movie that dropped back in 2019. Which was a good movie on its own. But this one right here is a live action movie based on the anime and the manga of the same name. Now, the anime Parasyte the Maxim came out in about 2014 and ran till about 2015. The live action movie came out back in 2014 and, like the Death Note movie, was also split into 2 parts. The premise of the story is that a high schooler named Shinichi is minding his own business taking a nap, right? But then this translucent worm-like creature slithers its way into his room. And this worm thing is basically one of these parasite alien creatures that burrow their way into people's brains and basically ends up terraforming their bodies and takes control over them. Some real body snatcher the Thing type shit going on. But anyway, the worm tries to go up Shinichi's nose, but he sneezes it out and it wakes him up. And the creature darts at him from across the room and basically burrows its way into his arm. But Shinichi ends up tying his arm off, which traps the worm in there, basically giving it no choice but to take over his arm instead of his brain. Thinking it was all just a crazy ass dream, he ends up going back to sleep. The next day he wakes up and finds his arm transforming into a weird ass looking creature, and it ends up naming itself Migi, which is Japanese for right, since, you know, it took over his right hand. Now Migi ends up breaking it down just what his species are and what their purpose is. As Shinichi tries to adapt to this new version of his life with an alien living in his arm, he ends up having battles with all the parasites who manage to successfully take over their host brains. And the reason why he has to murk all these parasites is because they're going around eating people. Migi basically offers a partnership where he'll defend Shinichi from all the other parasites. Not because he cares about him, because, you know, parasites don't give a shit about nobody but themselves, but simply because Shinichi is his host, and if he dies, Migi dies. Now, certain differences take place within the movie, like for example, Shinichi's father isn't in the story like the manga and anime because he's already dead before the story even starts. There's also other characters who end up getting omitted from the story, and certain battles play out differently. Like for example, originally Shinichi kills one of the parasites at school by spiking a big ass rock through his chest from like a whole nother building away. But in the movie, he takes him out by turning his hand into a bow and shooting a metal pole through him. Now, for what it is, I say the movie is pretty solid. Not the greatest thing ever, but it's not terrible either. I give it about a nice 7.5 out of 10. Also, as a side note, I want to add that I personally think that Parasyte the Great is a much more interesting adaptation than the Japanese live action movies. Next up is Alita, Battle Angel, at number 6, a gem that dropped back in 2019. The last movie I saw before the raggedy bitch that had the whole world on standby mode for 3 months paid us a visit.
The C virus.
C virus.
C virus.
C virus.
C virus.
The C virus.
Now, Alita is an ancient warrior who was taken out of commission during an epic battle that left her in pieces. A man named Ito ends up finding her in the scrapyard and puts her back together, all with Alita not remembering much of her past. The setting is basically a cyberpunk type world set about 300 years into the future. Little by little, Alita starts to remember who she really is. And every time she gets into an altercation, be it with regular humans or other cyborgs, her battle prowess tends to take over. She may have forgotten her identity in her past, but she didn't forget the various ways she could whoop someone's ass. Now, the movie basically covers everything that happened in the original anime OVA, and it nicely sets itself up for a sequel. The story, the acting, the character design, the casting, pretty much everything about this movie was pretty spot on in my opinion. Now, the big eyes on Alita was a bit weird at first, but I quickly got used to it. But on the real, I deadass hope the sequels for these movies come out a lot sooner than later, cause I'll take another 3 Alita movies over another Avatar sequel. I mean, look, the special effects were revolutionary for that movie at the time and all that, but I really couldn't care less about those Avatar sequels. But seeing as how Alita's story gets even more wild from here, there has to be more where that came from. But real spit, I'd say Alita is one of the best live action anime adaptations in my book. I give the movie about a nice 8.5 out of 10. Now, with the arrival of number 7, we got Battle Royale, which dropped back in the year 2000. Now, Battle Royale unfortunately doesn't have an anime, which it should, but it does have a manga series. A manga series that is 10 levels more brutal and gory than the movie. I remember years ago when I was sneak read the manga online at the back of the computer lab during class. It's wild as hell reading manga in public and then a schmeck scene pops up out of nowhere and now you gotta speed read past it so that nobody thinks you're reading some hens in a bow tie. Simply put, Battle Royale is one of the OG death game type stories. A high school class is gassed to sleep on a school bus and they wake up on an island. And when they wake up, they all realize that they've been chosen to partake in the Battle Royale, which is basically a game where everyone is given weapons and a time limit to go murk each other until only one of them remains as the victor. Also, to make sure that they participate even if they don't want to, they've all been fitted with a collar that'll explode and bust their whole neck off if they try to take it off or if more than one person is still alive by the end of the game. Now, over time, many of the students are either driven mad from having to murk each other, or other students end up letting their actual demonic nature show itself and become the villains they've always wanted to be. But that's not even the craziest part, bro. See, now this joint right here is not like Squid Game, where it's all done in secret away from the eyes of the law and the public view. Nah, son, the Battle Royale is 100% legal. This shit is entirely allowed by the government themselves and the public is fully aware of it. Hell, at the beginning of the movie, you see the Japanese media trying to interview the girl who was the last survivor of the previous Battle Royale game, with her demented looking ass smiling into the camera. Oh, and if this guy right here looks familiar, it's cause he also plays Light Yagami in the Death Note live action movie. Now, the movie of Battle Royale and the manga are their own things. Both are fire in their own right. The movie may not be as chunky as the manga, but it's a fire-ass movie nonetheless, with hella replay value. Matter of fact, I'm probably going to rewatch it after making this video. I give this joint about a good 9 out of 10. Quick side note, it has come to my attention that after editing this entire video that I realized that the Battle Royale manga came out years after the movie did. But see, the thing is, I don't care to re-edit this section off the video, so I'm gonna just leave it. Anyway, now we get to number 8 on this list, that being Tokyo Tribe. Now, if you've been around the internet for a while, I'm sure hearing the name Tokyo Tribe probably triggered a certain memory that you wish you didn't have. If you know what I'm saying, then you know what I'm saying. But don't worry, that scene is entirely non-existent in this movie. Now, something I can't stress enough is how much I hate musicals. Like, I straight up detest them shits, bro. Simply because every 5 minutes, the characters are singing another musical number. That's the main reason why there are a lot of Disney movies that I'm never gonna watch. I mean, I've had people ask me, bro, you never seen Frozen? You never seen Moana? You never watched Encanto? Nope. You wanna know why? Cause they're a bunch of fucking musicals. These people can never just speak to each other. They always speak for like a few seconds and then break into a choreographed dance sequence. Got characters out here talking about, come on, you can't be so pessimistic about life, man. Oh, really? And why shouldn't I? Because when you take a chance.
Shut the fuck up!
But the songs are the best part of the movie, bro. Fuck them songs. I mean, the amount of musicals that I actually do like and don't hate are so few in number that I can deadass count them all on 3 fingers. The first one being West Side Story, the second one being Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, and the third one being this movie right here, Tokyo Tribe. Now, you know what? As an honorable mention, I'll even say The Wiz. Now, this movie right here is basically a hip-hop musical. But the beats are fire, the lyrics hit even though I don't know what the hell they saying because I don't speak Japanese yet, and the story is about gangs unifying for a common enemy. And honestly, I think it has a pretty damn wholesome ending. Like the kind of energy that gives those goosebump type feelings. Now within Tokyo, there's a bunch of different gangs within different territories, and collectively they're known as the Tokyo Tribes. The antagonist, Meta, has plans to wipe out all the other gangs and take over as the king of the streets basically. But for right now, he works under the current big bad whose name is Boopa. Now Boopa being the same character responsible for that one scene from Tokyo Tribe. So basically for those who don't know what's happening, you see Boopa in the anime is a big ass gelatinous motherfucker, right? And he's behind the curtain with a little motherfucker and he's giving him the Fleece Johnson treatment. And judging by the dude screaming and those puddles of blood leaking out from under the curtains, he don't like that shit. Believe me when I tell you it's 100 times worse in the manga. Don't look it up. Alright, your mental health and your future self will thank you for it. If you look it up, you're just gonna want to beat your own ass for being nosy. But like I said, don't worry. That scene does not exist in the movie, thankfully. In fact, Boopa is drastically different in the movies. Instead of being a booty bandit, he's kind of like a cannibal who keeps a box of severed fingers in the drawer to chew on whenever he gets frustrated, I guess. And of course, like the other movies that have been mentioned, this joint takes a different approach than the anime. The conflict between Meta and Kai, who's the protagonist, is drastically different for a drastically different and honestly hilariously ridiculous reason. See, in the movie, Meta is beefing with Kai because Kai has a bigger beef.
What?
What?
Huh?
Yeah, you heard me right the first time. He doesn't hate Kai because he wronged him in some kind of way. Hell, he don't even hate him over a misunderstanding. Meta hates Kai and wants to end his whole bloodline because Kai is packing more than he is. And I don't mean it metaphorically or rhetorically or poetically or theoretically or in any other fancy way. This entire conflict between Meta and Kai is about dick size. Straight up. And it's so ridiculous that even Kai was flabbergasted when he found out. Bro was like, are you dead ass right now? Bro, you shoved a grenade in one of my homeboy's mouth and blew his whole top off cause I'm more blessed than you, my nigga? Nah, now I'm about to really bust you in your shit. And best believe Kai went to work with that signature metal baseball bat and binked the shit out of old boy. I mean, as ridiculous as this movie is, it's simply just way too fun not to like. Another fun fact is that Kai is actually played by the rapper Young Dives. And if you watch the Devilman Crybaby anime, the group of dudes who was rapping and beatboxing, he played the leader of the whole gang. And I know some of y'all must be thinking, hold up, how the hell does Mera even know the size of Kai's beef stick? Well, see, the thing is, right? In Japan, they have these public bathhouses and spas and stuff, right? And one day, Meta was chilling in the bathtub with his clique, and then Kai walks in to go chill with his clique in another bathtub. Meta just so happens to turn around at the wrong moment and ends up seeing what Kai's packing. And immediately, Meta stands up in fury, and he's like,
"Nigga, what the fuck is this bullshit?"
I'm not even joking or trying to be hyperbolic with the shit. That's dead ass how it plays out. But it's a post-credit scene, so you gotta wait until after the movie's over to see it. Overall though, I give this movie about a nice 8.5 out of 10. At number 9, we have the movie I Am a Hero, another movie based on a manga that unfortunately also doesn't have an anime, but definitely deserves an anime. Now this movie is about a mangaka who's struggling to get published, but one day people start getting sick and behaving funny. And of course the outbreak never starts until the protagonist notices that something is weird. People are suddenly turning into zombies all over the place and the usual zombie apocalypse ends up ensuing. But what's interesting about these zombies is that they exist in this state of delusion. You know, the people who are infected tend to say things and do things that were based on their personal interests, hobbies, and job occupations, and maybe even their traumas. So if you were to like walk by an infected police officer, they'd be continuously saying stuff like, "License and registration. License and registration. License and registration." Just saying that shit over and over and over and over until they turn around and see you and their faces all twisted, cockeyed, and veiny looking. Then they end up chasing your ass all around the place with the intention of doing what zombies do. Now, if you enjoy stuff like Kingdom, All of Us Are Dead, #Alive, Train to Busan, or if you like the Resident Evil games, chances are you'll dig this movie. I just wish it had an anime because I badly want to see a horror anime about zombies. And no, I don't mean no High School of the Dead shit, because that was a letdown for me. I went in there hyped to see a zombie apocalypse anime, and instead just got some borderline smut. But anyway, I give I Am a Hero about a nice 8 out of 10. Speaking of the number 10, at number 10 we got Rurouni Kenshin. This movie pretty much speaks for itself. The legend himself, the Batosai, is trying to live a quiet life as a nomad. But there's people who want to X him out the gene pool like the X scar on his face. And they want to take him out because if they end up murking him, they'll be known as the one who killed the manslayer. The Batosai is just nasty as hell when it comes to the way of the sword. And this dude is basically the John Wick of the samurai era. I mean, this dude has racked up so many bodies under his belt. He's basically been solidified as that nigga. Old boy's just Miyamoto Musashi on steroids. Like all the steroids. And so all these other train killers, if they manage to take Batosai out, their own reputation is gonna skyrocket like some good stock. Well, some people want his reputation, other people are coming after him for revenge, and some other people are even trying to challenge his whole newfound ideology of never taking another life again. But like I said before, Kenshin is basically trying to turn his life around and live a humble life while letting the youth know that the streets ain't worth it. But his enemies, on the other hand, yeah, they don't care about none of that shit. They just want the smoke. Now, this movie is one of the prime examples of live action anime done right. It sticks as close to the anime as possible without coming off as utterly ridiculous looking. Plus, the fight scenes are nothing short of bomb as hell. I've yet to see the sequels, but judging from the first movie, I know the rest won't disappoint. I give this joint a good 9 out of 10. Now, second to last at number 11 is the Bleach live action movie. This was a movie I was honestly worried wouldn't be all that great because movies that involve weird superpowers and stuff like this don't work too well in live action form, simply because either the effects ain't up to par or they just look weird when real people act them out. But this right here, this is proof that anime movies don't have to be super grounded in reality and have realistic settings in order to look good. The movie basically covers everything from the start of the Substitute Shinigami arc up until the part where Rukia gets taken back to the Soul Society with Byakuya and Renji after Byakuya folds Ichigo like some fresh laundry, of course. The movie kinda ends with a possibility of a sequel story, or it could just end right here. And honestly, either way is fine because both possibilities work. The monster designs felt like some real effort went into them, the fight scenes were pretty damn cool, and just like the anime, the soundtrack for this movie slaps like a... I give this joint about a nice 8.5 out of 10. And last on this list at number 12 is Alice in Borderland. This banger dropped back in 2020. This wasn't even a show that I got recommended to watch. It was actually one of those joints that I just came across and put on out of boredom. Essentially, I just put it on as some background noise while I worked on my comics. But when I tell you that I was hooked on this show by the middle of episode 1, bruh. This live action show surpasses the anime by leaps and bounds in my opinion. I mean, the anime only had like about 3 or 4 episodes anyway, but Alice in Borderland is a great example of a story that keeps you on the edge of your seat as you try to figure out not only how the character is going to make it out of the next death game, but who might bite the bullet next, or who might sell out who in order to win, and who might be the sheep in wolf's clothes. But hold on. I think I'm just getting a little too ahead of myself right now. The premise of the story goes like this. One day, the protagonist, Arisu, and his 2 homeboys are just chilling out in Shibuya one day, and suddenly they get transported to this alternate reality version of Japan. It still looks like the world that they come from, but something about it is different. They notice that the place looks quite empty, and after they do some exploring, they eventually start running into some other people. Turns out that them and a select group of other people from all over Japan got transported to this alternate reality as well. And not too much later, they realize that they gotta compete in these death games. And the rules are simple. If you play the death game, either you win or you die. And if you don't play the death games, you die. And the reason why they die anyway is because they have these things called visas. And these visas have a certain amount of days left on it, which means these are the amount of days they can go without playing the game. But they need to make sure they play the game before the counter reaches 0, because if it reaches 0, a laser that comes from somewhere up in the sky will zip down and Swiss cheese their skull, and your ass ain't fast enough to dodge it. Likewise, that same laser will kill a person if the time limit for the game runs out, or if someone tries to leave the boundaries of said game before the game is actually over. And see, the crazy thing about a lot of these death games is that a lot of these games are very reminiscent of childhood games. It be games like Tag, Guess Who, etc, but everything is like dialed up to 1,000. It's crazy as hell, bro. But anyway, it's like a mix of having some level of security, knowing that the more capable characters are gonna come out on top, but there's also that part of your conscience that's like, hey, don't get too cocky now, because your favorite character could die at any moment. And the craziest part is that whenever the story seems like all hope is lost for the main squad, they somehow pull it off in a way that you did not see coming at all. You'd be like, damn, I don't even think I would have thought of that shit if I was playing the game. And the victories don't come across as something that feels like it had to happen for the sake of the plot, but more so because the squad is actually that smart and resourceful in how they play each game. And of course, since no one is really all that safe, there's moments where your favorite characters, or at least characters you've grown to like, can end up getting X'd out of the plot at any point in time, especially with season 2. That shit has moments that'll have you looking at your screen holding your breath like, no, goddammit, no! Not like this! No, goddammit! Overall though, this show slaps hard enough to leave your ass slumped, and you just gonna be left itching for some more. I give this joint about a nice 9 out of 10. Now, despite the fact that live action anime has had a bad rep over the years, and believe me, a lot of them suck, but the ones that I've listed were just to name off a few. And as I've said, I haven't seen all of them. Shows like One Piece haven't broken the curse. Not because the One Piece show sucks, but because that curse has been broken already. But it does show that when the right people get behind stuff like this, it can be just as dope as the superhero movies. Or at least as dope as they used to be. But anyway, that's just my 2 cents. Let me know what y'all think and we can chop it up in the comment section. Peace.